fact that you're here should tell you that you're amazing. And so, thank you for being amazing. Yay! And I have the pleasure of introducing Jude, who is such a lovely, kind, fun, gregarious, enjoyable person. I had the pleasure of meeting him. And
through Sarah Larson, a great friend of ours.
A great friend of ours, thank you. And
wonderful healer, by the way.
Her husband Greg is here in the audience, yes. Also a good friend. And we immediately meshed together in our common vision for what it is that people could do collectively. And so instead of it being me against you, if we both help each other, then three people have been helped: me, you, and us. And so one of the things that I loved when I first met Jude is that he is someone who brings together community, and he gathers people together. So when we first started talking, I said, well, gosh, Jude, this is your thing. You're in your element and you're bringing people together for a particular cause. You may or may not know that Jude started one of the first television shows in Sedona, Arizona. I'm from Arizona. This is a huge feat to bring technology to Arizona, and so was able to do something for the community that he's replicating here, which is occurs on several levels, but I'll say the most important one of those levels is that he celebrates the individual. And he celebrates what's beautiful about them and celebrates their gift. And so we're here to hear about many gifts, and so I want to thank you for being here, all of you.
It's always been about community, and I didn't grow up super rich. I grew up abundant. And by that, I mean I lived in a neighborhood of like 15 houses, and one house would have the built-in pool, the other one would have the tennis court, the other one would have this or that. And I had 10 friends I grew up with. So I was always at one house or another just playing and hanging out, and it seemed normal to me that this was community. Community for me has always been an interesting aspect as technology has improved and these tools come to you, and we began our new evolution with the technology and how it affects society and people, and what we do between our technology and our spiritual side. And it's always felt like there's been a balance of where you're spiritual but you're not exactly technical, or you're technical and you're not exactly spiritual. But now, as technology is moving forward, I think that spiritual side of us can be supported by technology. So as that's being supported by technology, you can apply that to building a community. But when I was in Sedona and I did the TV station, this was before the internet, so I knew a secret power of media and participate in community discussions, solar power, different things like that of global sustainability that we were able to do within the community within Sedona. And when I got here a few years ago, because technology caught up with me, YouTube happened, and now it's global, and everybody's a content provider. All of a sudden, everybody knows how to do this wonderful, magical, secreted thing that I had in my small town. So technology catches up, and that brings me here to California. I sold my shares, I left my life behind, I changed everything, relationship, everything. The paradigm shift hit me like a brick wall. I came here, I started over again, and I began building a community online through digital media in a platform called Blip TV. And Blip 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago was brand new in New York City. It was like the new YouTube. You could do your YouTube stuff and store it there. But the difference was Blip paid us 50% of whatever they made in advertising money. So as a content provider, it seemed like the best place to have the platform. So I submitted the show, and I decided to do a show about Silicon Beach. They've all done super well. I've had like 60 episodes, and everyone has been a major star here in Silicon Beach. And people ask me, why have you interviewed these people? Why are they on your show? And I have finally found the words. After 2 years, I didn't know how to say it, but I think now they're heart-centered people. Everybody is heart-centered. I think everyone in this room has a heart-centeredness about them. I think everybody here, in some way, wants to make a difference and a contribution in any way they possibly can. And they want to bring it to their work. And if we can find that balance and make money and do all that, then that's wonderful. But in these conversations of how you can utilize technology for this, I met a great business partner and co-creator, Trinh here, and he is, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Charlie has evolved not only the Blip TV show, but myself personally in the evolution of what's next in technology, what's next in peer-to-peer technology that we can use on a day-to-day basis. And when we met, we decided that we would take a trip and go to Egypt and talk about this. And while we were in Egypt, we had some amazing discussions under the Great Pyramid. And this is where it's going to be like, okay, the crazy guys hanging out the pyramid, getting stoned, talking world peace, right? This is bullshit. They're weirdo fucking
That's
idiots.
what you do in the pyramids, right?
So, what the hell? So we had a blast, but we also realized we had amazing engagement conversation about world peace. And as we discussed it, we decided to make a promise that when we got back, no matter how crazy it was, we were going to try to talk to people and engage people in conversation about world peace and see what happens. And it's not easy to do. People think you're crazy. And then the other thing is get centered yourself and find your own peace inside, or you won't have peace out there. And so many different philosophies and opinions. And Charlie has an amazing gift with community and storytelling. And I'll let you tell a little bit about your background and what you...
So my background is I was a game producer at Disney for 6 years. And what they're really good at is making sure you know the story the entire time. You're making every single thing. So in the pitch, what's a story? Oh, it's a game. What's a story? Okay. So Frozen, Pixar, Pixar and their storytelling. I learned the storytelling of Pixar, and what they're really good at is always keeping the same story in every single scene they did. And working with Jude, he had this amazing thing is he could bring everything together, but a lot of times, we all know this, our everyday distractions, we get pulled in many ways. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing anymore. And so I was able to really kind of bring back to what is the story we're trying to do. And the story under the pyramids, you can't lie. You just look at the pyramids and go, okay, so we're going to get our shit together and figure this out. And we said world peace. Well, how do you do world peace? So 2 weeks in Egypt, we ran through many people. We worked with many different people to really think about what this meant. And we decided that it needed a change. Just as we transform from many generations, we decided we need to change this to a different generation that doesn't focus on necessarily the old ideas, but a new idea, and the heart-centered technology paradigm is kind of what we're working with. And so in Egypt, we had many discussions, and after we both came back from Egypt, and I was a couple of places, we finally decided that we're going to make this a reality. We're not going to just talk about world peace. We're just going to act on it.
But if we can take these thoughts and break them down into what we feel is the basis of world peace, basically, without it being politics and war, your global sustainability.
It's a sense of sustainability, like make sure everything's okay, we're not going to die tomorrow, just what makes us kind of comfortable.
So we have, these 6 areas and this is all open for conversation. We're not preaching that these are the only 6 things, but what we're saying is these are the things that we've been discussing. And what grounds it out is when we can find companies that are actually doing stuff in here. Companies for energy and companies for agriculture, economy, or education. And there are people in this room that have these companies that are doing these things, that they can also see how we are now taking this and matching it into actual doing this. So that's been our mission, to take this and bring it to the world.
So the next place we were looking at is kind of going to these 6 fundamental ideas using social media, but now talking about these amazing companies, amazing people, amazing anybody who are really thinking about stuff like this. Any of these ideas, economics, health, we're talking about solar baking could change, the way we cook food. We're talking about app tech industry with water and preservation environment. World Horse Ride in Germany, their whole city is now fully solar, and they're making millions of dollars returning it to the system. So when people say we couldn't do it, they did it, and now it's no longer a question. It can be done. We're talking about economic with Bitcoin and how we can now revolutionize how the economy is based on the people, not about the banks that hold the money of the people, but just the people can choose what they spend money on. That's the consumerism of the idea. So a lot of these companies are really kind of bringing a lot of different aspects, but we're bringing all of it together. The 6 are the ways we focus, we can have everybody involved, but the technology is everybody coming together in this idea of hackathons where we're now working to really actively find the problems and the people that can help with the solutions.
So we want to bring it into technology, hackathons. We want to, share this with people, share it with the tech community, get people together, see if we can solve local problems in local communities with technology supported by these companies that can back it up. And we started a Facebook page called Heart Centered.
I know a lot of you guys have great people you've met that are heart-centered, but the two of us cannot really bring the global community together. It's the global community that has to kind of bring us these answers. So heart-centered is a place for us. So all of you guys probably read some great articles like, oh, these people are doing amazing stuff. And we're both going to have kind of channels to really continue discussing the conversation. Jude is great at finding these amazing tech companies. I'm looking to really bring my gaming and spirituality together to kind of find that connection that game is life, life is game. Very interesting conversations. And on Twitter, we're continuing the conversation with hashtag HeartCentered, and then you can communicate with us specifically at Hyperator Inc.
Now, we're co-founders of Hyperator Inc. and co-creators, which we're working on integrative engagement within different companies and different gaming techniques.
So you guys kind of remember the ideas, we're really thinking about it, we're acting upon it in many ways we can, and really sharing the message. Because we can be doing great things all day long, but if no one knows about it, no one's going to continue those great things. So let us kind of say, today I'll start, and then we continue the conversation. Because if we want to be, what's her name, Kardashians on the Twitter feed, let's kind of have that conversation and say heart-centered information is bigger than what some celebrities do. And it's that conversation of continuing it that will keep the idea going. So what if we were to shrink the idea into a heart-centered conference, and we were really to make it into place in Los Angeles that we would start really kind of talking locally, and then we're now talking about.
And we want to have the first hackathon here in LA, by the way. So.
And working on those details, yeah. And then we're talking about let's talk to the East Coast, Mexico, and all these people. We don't have to be doing it ourselves. We're just helping people kind of raise their voice and say, what does that mean to be heart-centered technology in your area? So we're creating really a network of connected people, connected heart-centered technologies that now are working globally in a global resource. It's not just our little Los Angeles town, which is still an amazing town, but it's Egypt, and it's just everyone around the world. But sometimes we kind of say, that's a big vision, Charlie. So how about you give us some directions? Well, we have what's called the greatest invention, I think, ever invented, which is the handheld device. You have everything you need on this handheld device. We have the globe. We can have that spin. We can have all kinds of information. The problem is we're not really putting the information that we need. It's always about what other people are talking about. Well, who are you? How do you find out about yourself? And how do you gamify your story so that you become heart-centered? And now this game will be a game about you and how you would matter in this world, in this earth. So the idea is I'm bringing games, a new format of education, of entertainment, and of information, and saying, let's now be interactive and let's work with the people that we're talking to. So the game of you is really a game I'm working on to really build an engine where all of us can talk about our own story. It's a beginning conversation. I welcome all kinds of people with suggestions.
And we're building it to be a lifelong game. So everything that you've done for your personal development or whatever will be also part of the game that you help to design. So
and we're kind of seeing a little bit of that. Apple Watch just came out yesterday. If any of you guys paid attention, it records your biometrics. So now you're literally telling people we can track your information, but that information should be for you. Like, if you can go to the doctor and say, oh, I ran 2 weeks, so you can't say I didn't do my due diligence. No, like, there's a conversation that we can now have where you control your information. It's not anybody else that tells you what to do. So you can continue to follow us with the story through Twitter and Facebook. You guys can get our contact information, but we really want to continue the conversation forward. Please keep in touch with all of us as we kind of unfold what heart-centered technology is to all of us. And there's a couple cameras. You guys kind of saw the amazing work that you did with his very old camera, so we decided to kind of upgrade. So please share what you guys think a heart-centered technology is.
The cameras are here for that. If you want to jump in and be a part of the documentary, you can. Howard is here as a living example of heart-centered technology, and I think he also has an amazing winery. And you haven't had this yet. Who came the furthest in the room here tonight? Who came the furthest? Where'd you come from? Encino? Anyone further than that? Oh, Laguna Beach.
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Wow, there we go. Fantastic. And we have 2 more bottles here. So, okay, I'm going to crowdfund the next one. What do we think the next, who should this next bottle go to? Anyone got an answer or question? Yeah, you just can't say me.
Her.
She's amazing. Okay, who?
The host tonight. There you go.
Oh, Giovanna. Oh, good marketing. Yeah. All the events coming up. There we go. Let's hear it for the space. It's a beautiful, beautiful space here. Yes.
I came the shortest distance.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, maybe there's somebody in between. I'll leave this one for Howard to give away, and why don't you come up and accept your own wine? That's really cheesy, right? We'll just leave it here when you can speak, and we'll figure it out. Howard has been a great mentor of mine. He also runs some amazing companies out here. Started with BioHeart, and he's a serial entrepreneur. He's got many, many, many different companies. Has started the California Stock Exchange, and just an amazing all-around guy. Food trucks and scooters, and totally does things that help with the economy, creates jobs, sustainability, just amazing company. So it's all yours, Howard. Take it away.
It's really special to be with a group of heart-centered people. It makes it easier to speak, for one thing, because there's a bunch of soft hearts here and that love people. And there's a famous line from both a book and a movie, Into the Wild. And this line at the very end of the story of the person who lost their life was, he records down that joy is only real when shared. And this message from Charlie and Jude about sharing, it's really about that, about the fact that we together can create more energy through sharing these joys of social good and heart-centered leadership than if we just stand in a room and think about it ourselves. And I myself, I get motivated by seeing others. I'm motivated by seeing these guys in action and the video that we just saw. And by hanging around with people that kind of lift you up higher, it makes us all a little bit better. So this is really something to celebrate together today. We're celebrating Silicon Beach. We're celebrating heart-centered leadership. Jeff Klein is a friend to a number of us in the room here. He was a co-producer of Conscious Capitalism Summit. I'm very lucky to be a California delegate once again, and we'll be going to Austin in October. He suddenly lost his life about a month ago. He was the author of the book, It's Just Good Business. And it's another, we all have our own personal experiences, but this is somebody that was in our community that was lost at age 55 suddenly in the night. And what was most shocking to all of us is that he's the healthiest guy we knew. He's the guy who woke up and jogged at 6 in the morning and drank the veggie shakes and the fruit shakes, and yet even he was lost. It means that any one of us could be lost in any day, and you know, just celebrating life itself. This is called a celebration, so it's a nice thing to celebrate being alive, and even better, you know, sharing these beautiful sentiments of trying to make the world a better place. I'm going to share with you something that kind of lays the foundation of the mixture of having a heart-centered approach to life and business. And Jeff was the person who introduced this to me. I'm not sure if he was the original person who said it, but I learned it from him, and it's in his books. And he explained that every human needs red blood cells to survive and to live. But nobody would argue that the purpose of life, of our human life, is limited to just creating red blood cells. It would almost sound silly if somebody said that. But yet, somehow when it comes to business, the idea of creating cash and profits, even though we'll all admit that businesses need cash and profits to survive, how did it come to be that many people believe business is for the sole purpose of creating cash and profits? And Jeff argued through his teaching that he didn't believe business was limited to just the purpose of creating cash and profits. He believed that businesses can have a purpose to do great things for society, to create environments for working that are conducive to allow people to have joy and love in their life and to share the experience. And he, as well as many others and people in this room, are helping to kind of lead a change in that direction of thinking, that the end-all, be-all is not an overriding emphasis on short-term net profits at the expense of everything else. A lot of CEOs go to Wall Street and they get a high-paid job and they're under pressure to create instant results. And it's hard to create instant results, but somehow the expectation is there. So they begin to make cuts. They cut R&D spending. They cut giving back to the community. They cut people. They cut plants. They move plants overseas. They make tax moves to try to reduce their expenses while having the same amount of revenue. We want to argue that that is not necessarily the best route to take, that there's another choice, and that choice we think is a better choice. And that choice is to have heart-centered leadership in an organization, and that we're not just saying this from left-sided point of view, that being nice and being good is the only way to go. We're actually making the logical argument that it's not just good for good's sake to treat people well and have a sense of purpose, but it's actually good business. That when you have a sense of purpose and you have an organization that treats people well, you're first going to start by attracting the best people, and then you're going to retain the best people, and you're going to motivate the best people. And when people have a sense of purpose, love what they're doing, believe in the purpose of the organization, believe that it's not just about creating profits and cash, even though that's nice and it's needed, but it's not the sole purpose of the organization to do that, they're far more likely to be engaged in the work, and that engagement of loving what they do and being energized to go into work and kind of having an environment where it's supportive and loving and nurturing, it's actually going to create better profits long run for the corporation. Because one thing that cannot be denied is that every business has to have customers. And in one way or the other, the spirit of the organization is reflected in that interaction with the customers. And a lot of times people maybe don't even realize that they don't want to go back shopping somewhere, or don't want to go to a restaurant, or don't want to fly an airline. And they might not even know the reason, but oftentimes people who study human psychology will tell you that the spirit of the organization is being reflected in the engagement of the customer, and nobody wants to be around people who are overly stressed and who feel like they hate their job and feel like they hate their boss and hate the people they work with and hate the environment. It is absolutely reflected in the engagement of the customer. And if you lose customers, you lose business. The contrary to that, which is much better, is an organization full of happy people who are engaged in what they're doing, believe in what they're doing, care about what they're doing, and are energized to make the organization better every day, to make their product better every day, to make the customer experience better every day. One of my favorite books is, I wish I could remember the name of all these authors to give them proper credit, but one of my favorite books is the book called Fish. Does anybody know this book called Fish? it's such a simple book, but it brings such a special message. And this is a book about a gentleman, John Christensen, I remember that name, who went to go work for the Pike's Fish Market, or one of the fish markets in Pike's Place in Seattle. And he struggled to find a job, and he eventually got a job at the fish market. And he needed that job, and he was grateful to have that job. And he showed up his first day, the new employee, and he was like, wow, I'm so happy to have this job. And he shows up there, and he finds an environment where people have their heads down, and they're like, what are you talking about? This is a terrible job. We have to cut stinking fish, and it's dirty, and we don't get paid enough, and the boss isn't great, and this is, you know, what are you talking about? This is you're grateful to have this job. You know, John went home his first day and thought, what do I do here, you know? And he decided to take action, to do something, to convert what was in his heart into his work and try to make things better. So he went in with a concerted effort and tried to change the attitude of the organization. And I won't walk you through the whole book and all the steps he took, but the end result, if you've ever been to the Pike's Place fish market, it's a joyful place. They start by throwing the fish up from the back, and they make a bunch of jokes and are laughing, and clearly the people working there are enjoying what they're doing. They have true engagement with the customers. People love to shop there. People love to work there. The business is thriving. It's a great place to work. Now everybody wants to work at that place because you're almost you're in a great environment. And the only thing that changed was one guy coming in with an idea to change the attitude. It still was the same place. It was still the same fish. It was still in the same location. It was still the same customers walking by. But with that attitude change, all of a sudden, a lot more customers came, and a lot of other people liked to work there, and the people that were already working there started to enjoy their work when nothing changed but the attitude. That's a lot of what we're here to talk about today. I took a couple notes, and I want to tell you a few other stories. The 4 points I wanted to make today are: one, there's no better place to build a business than Silicon Beach. Two, technology is truly making our lives better. Three, there's never been a better time to be alive than this time, despite what the naysayers say. And the fourth, with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor and some fun, what is sexy in today's age? First, Silicon Beach. You may have seen earlier this year we were really delighted to have coverage in the Huffington Post and the Journal of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and the title was LA Story, Santa Monica Takes the Startup World by Storm. And the article and the author of the article tried to delve into why we are having a boom of startups in this West LA, Silicon Beach area. And first of all, if you don't know, in this area, there's a greater concentration of startups per square mile than anywhere in the entire world. We beat Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has more, but they're quite spread out. But it's a great start, and it's pretty cool to have that distinction. I was lucky to be interviewed in this occasion, and when I was asked the question, I was thinking of Jude, and my reply, what makes Silicon Beach and Los Angeles special, was this. In the modern age, whether you like it or not, all companies are media companies. No matter how great a product you have, if your story doesn't get out, doesn't get heard, doesn't get understood, doesn't engage people, you're not going to get very far. And there's no better place at crafting storytelling, at crafting the communication of a vision than this area that we're living in. We are living in the best place to start a business in the modern age that there is anywhere on the planet, and it's showing in the recent growth that we've had. The second thing I want to talk about is technology. This is a heart-centered tech. Heart-centered technology is one of the things that is a driving force for this movement. Myself, my definition of technology for most of my life has been working in technology to try to treat people that have heart and cardiovascular disease. And I can tell you from the front lines that there's not only is this the best time to be alive, I would argue that it's also the best time to be sick, because we are making advances in the care of patients that take great leaps forward, that improve things monumentally better than they have been improved in the last 1,000 years. I've been involved with stem cell therapy, and in very simple terms, without going into a lot of detail, the human body, the human heart, our pacemakers, our heart valves, our blood vessels, our heart is made of living cells, and there's absolutely no better way to repair them than using your own living cells. And we feel very blessed to be one of the leaders in this movement, and we really believe in it. Another thing is the technology of helping startups to get off the ground, to be able to get further, and to advance their business with much less startup capital and much further than would have been possible in the 1960s or 1970s or 80s or even 90s. It's really a special time to be opening a business, because the technology allows you to basically operate a business from anywhere. You can operate your business from your phone, and you can do it at less cost, and you can do so much more. And then the other thing that's happening that's coinciding with that is, because of technology and platforms like YouTube and like Blip TV, the gatekeeper system that used to kind of artificially hold down opportunity to an elite few that maybe had the contacts to get through the gatekeepers and the barriers, they're no longer relevant. In fact, it's almost amazing that Macy Kate, she is a 17-year-old girl in Boston, goes in the garage with her friends, she creates a video, and she gets 8 million views within the first week that the video is out. And I got to believe, I don't know her, never met her, but I got to believe that she probably doesn't quite understand the monumental impact of that. The first year that the Beatles sold the records in the entire United States, they only sold 30,000 records. And yet Macy Kate, who's almost unknown, without any gatekeepers, no record company, 8 million views within a week. I mean, it's a monumental time to be alive. And the fact that the gatekeepers are not there really opens up greater opportunity than has ever been present in the history of the planet. And then comes crowdfunding. And those who know me, I've been passionate spokesperson. I actually am the official state spokesperson for crowdfunding and the Jobs Act for the state of California. Thank you. Through Startup California and the Startup America Partnership. It's something I believe is about to change the world and the United States in particular in a bigger way than anyone has measured. For me, we took our company BioHeart, a company that used stem cells to regenerate damaged heart muscle. We took that company public in 2008. We were the only biotech IPO in the whole United States in 2008, which in itself showed that there's some broken problems with the American financial system as it existed in 2008. And it cost us $4.8 million of legal costs, regulatory costs, accounting costs, insurance costs, banking costs to raise $7 million. And we were raising $7 million to finish the final phase 3 clinical trial that we think is a product that's going to save 25 million lives over the next decade, create a lot of jobs. And we were stifled because of the high cost involved with raising capital. So after I went through that experience, my first thought when I got the bill for $4.8 million after we just raised under $7 million was to go to Congress and just start punching people. But I decided that might not be exactly the best idea, despite the fact that I was angry. And I had a right to be angry because that money was supposed to go to saving lives, it was supposed to go to clinical trials, it was supposed to go to people doing real work and not to bureaucratic regulatory expenses that I felt didn't add any value, and they're supposed to be with the purpose of protecting investors, and I think they were actually hurting investors more than they were protecting by taking the money away from the people doing the real work. So I got involved with reform. I had no idea about reform. I won't tell you the whole long story, but at the first time that I went up there, I sat in an office and waited for a senator to come out, waited 2 hours. He didn't come out. So I'm telling a young intern all my trials and tribulations, and she's taking notes, and that's it. And I didn't get very far at all. But eventually I met up with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I met up with the people that eventually formed the Startup America Partnership. They had a little more clout than I had on my own, and I kind of contributed as a small cog to this big wheel that eventually passed the Jobs Act, which was really monumental. It changed laws that were in place since 1933 And without going through all the details, it greatly reduces the cost and complexity of raising capital, and it greatly opens up opportunity for more people, especially common, ordinary people, to be able to raise capital at less cost and less complexity. And April of 2012 came about, and I got an invitation to come to the White House and to the Rose Garden to be with our president for the signing of the Jobs Act, which no matter what other experiences you have in your life, you know, to be invited by the White House to the Rose Garden, it was you know, a big experience in my life. I had goosebumps, and when the president signed the Jobs Act, I had tingles in my spine, and I exclaimed to people afterwards that I felt like I was watching something as important as signing the Emancipation Proclamation. And not to take away in any way the importance of that, but the reason I felt that way is because I feel so strongly about the people that were kind of held back from the good old boys network and the good old system that existed before. Just to give one example, the example of women. In the past 20 years, women have only accessed about 5% of the venture financing dollars in the entire United States, despite the fact that, very good news, that women now are owning very close to 50% of the businesses in the United States. But that's good news. This law kind of breaks through a lot of the barriers that were causing that disparity of only 5%. And I'm ashamed of that there's no financial reason, there's no logical reason that there was this imbalance. What was the reason is that the old law said that you could only sell your shares to millionaires that you already had a substantial existing relationship with, which basically was the Golf Country Club crowd. And if you go to a Golf Country Club, you tend to see white, gray-haired guys, and you don't see a lot of women, you don't see a lot of minorities, and you don't see a lot of people from blue-collar backgrounds like myself or from middle-class, ordinary middle-class families. And this law was kind of, you know, with good intent back in the 30s, but it ended up, you know, creating a big problem for raising capital. So now comes crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, you can put your offering on Facebook, you can put it on LinkedIn, you can bring it out in meetings like this, you can get small amounts from a lot of different people. And this is going to make a big, gigantic difference. Now, in case you don't know, equity crowdfunding, as I'm describing it, is not fully activated yet. The law passed, by the way, one of the also great days of my life, when it went to Congress, we worked so hard, we were worried if we were going to be able to get it through, and it came through in two parts. The first, we waited for the vote came through 421 to 1. So we not only won the vote, but we slaughtered it. And the other vote, which is truly the Title III crowdfunding that I'm talking about, was 407 to 17. Every Republican and Democrat in California, every representative of California voted yes, and so this is overwhelmingly the will of the people. Congress mandated the SEC to implement the rules by December 31st of 2012. They haven't done it yet, and it's just like absolutely flabbergasting, because this wasn't like a suggestion like, you know, if you get around to it, could you please, you know, implement this? It was a congressional mandate, and they ignore it, and it's so frustrating for all the people involved. And I personally believe that when it is fully implemented, it's going to usher in the greatest era of creativity, of economic growth that the world has ever known. Being able to get small amounts from a lot of people has already made a difference in other fields. Our current president, many people would argue that the $100 million and under $200 donations he got was the prime driver that allowed somebody like him to get in, despite the fact that very big money interests didn't want him to get in, but the will of the people prevailed because of the ability to crowdfund the president. Well, that same kind of power is going to be now applied to businesses and to startups and helping people to follow their dreams. So it's a very special time. I want to talk a little bit about a few other things, one of which is the use of technology in other aspects. One of the exciting things for us here in Santa Monica is we're about to have and Venice to have the light rail come through. And this is going to be a really big event for us next year. We'll be able to go down to Los Angeles with supposedly with no traffic and no delays. So this is
across campus, right next to the station.
It's just an amazing development for us living here. The third thing I wanted to talk about was there's no better time to be alive. And one of the statements that came from a book by Robin Sharma, one of my favorite authors, is the statement, one of the top human regrets is that you reach the last day of your life, you reach your last breath with the song that was meant to be you still silent within you. And you know, we're alive now, and we don't have to be on our last day yet, or last breath, or hopefully not. And you have an opportunity to change that and to write your own story, to have the pen for the story of your life in your hand and somebody else's hand. So, you know, coming out of tonight, I hope being around all these people who are pursuing dreams themselves, if you're somehow not living your life purpose and not doing what you really want to do with your life, it's a good time to maybe start doing that.
And stay tuned for the game of you.
The last thing I wanted to say is anyone see the Teen Choice Award speech by Ashton Kutcher? One did. Incredibly enough, you know, he is what he is, and he's been part of our lives in different ways, and maybe kind of a silly actor here and there. But he gave one of the most important speeches I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
So in this speech, he's talking to young people, and really quickly he walked through the fact that every job he had, he was grateful to have that job, and he cherished that job, and that any job that you have, you feel lucky to have it. The second thing he talked about was that opportunity has a strange way of looking like hard work, and opportunity, it comes from hard work. The third thing he talked about is that everything you see around you, and he took this from the movie Jobs, where he played Steve Jobs. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a great movie. And he talked about the fact that everything you see around you, every invention, was created by somebody that's no better than you, and that you should go out and create a life. Don't just ride along. You know, we all have an opportunity to create. And this idea that some people have that somehow the people that are creating these things, that are doing these great things, are somehow better than them, it's just not true. The truth is, these people are not any better than you are. The fourth thing he talked about was being sexy. And this is a sexy community, Silicon Beach. And what he talked about that I wanted to share was that being sexy, what's sexy is being really smart and being considerate and kind and giving. And in the last month, I had a chance to go to Denmark and to Sweden. And Denmark, if you don't know, is designated as the happiest nation in the world. Oprah went over there and did a bunch of interviews. And I was kind of sitting back observing, like, first of all, is it really happy? And I was observing that, yes, people are pretty happy. And then I started to observe why, or started to think about why. And I was in a park, saw a bunch of people kissing, blankets out, everybody having a good time on the weekend, and all of a sudden it hit me. And the reason that I believe, my personal opinion of why Denmark is the happiest country in the world, is because what is sexy there, and what causes the very beautiful ladies of Denmark to kiss the boys of Denmark and to think that they're sexy, is they direct their love to people that treat people well, that are considerate, that treat the person at the door the same way you would treat the president of a university, that have a sense of purpose to their life above and beyond just making money. And that simple key societal element, the fact that the boys want to kiss the girls, and the girls are directing the fact that they only value men that are treating people right and are acting and behaving in a way that makes for a better country. So let's do that here.
Excellent, brother. Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, couldn't be a better speech to go with the point of the evening. So we have one more bottle of delicious Leonhardt winery here. So is there like a single guy in the audience at all? Any bachelors? Come off it. All right, there's a bachelor. Is there any single women? I'm going to make this really embarrassing. Guess what? You two have to share it. So meet each other, mingle, meet each other, engage. It's about engagement, right? It's about engagement. Thank you all so much for joining Charlie, myself, for the Hyperator tonight. Also, Anna Young, Silicon Beach Strategies, which will hopefully one day be an LLC in the Hyperator. As we evolve our community into a kind of online magazine type of setting with everyone that I've met over the past couple of years kind of feeding in information to the community. So that was actually Anna putting that together. As I spun around doing my shows, she just formed a whole company around it, and she's brilliant at things like that. On assignment right now at the Israel conference happening October 30th and 31st, I believe. 700 tech startups from Tel Aviv coming over here. So thank you for bringing an international market. And Charlie, Trinh, you have anything you want to say as we're going to wrap this up? So,
you guys are all welcome to continue the conversation. I think that a lot of you guys probably started moving those cogs. I'm very interested in continuing this conversation. But again, just continue conversation with us anytime, any day, online, so we can continue this further in the next year or two. We'll probably say, we reach world peace. What do we do next, right? Thank you very much.
Drew Stewart is volunteering tonight. I want to send a plug out to him. He has Juicy Media. He's a videographer in town. And he has a special heart in that he, again and again, either accepts shares or reduced pay. He should be getting paid a lot more. He should be getting paid more tonight.
Well, he's getting paid. He's very happy.
He purposefully works for causes he believes in. If he believes in what you're doing, he's likely to reduce his rate, give extended payment terms, and that's a special heart. He's a special part of the community. Drew Stewart of Juicy Media.
Excellent. Very good. Well, we got to give Jason a plug, too. Our other guy, we can't leave him alone. Jason's got beautiful company as well. The two of them make an amazing package too.
Very heart-centered.
And very heart-centered camera guys. Everyone's wonderfully heart-centered here. So I don't think, if you're not, get out now. Anyone have any questions or anything before we wrap the night up? I just wanted to see if anyone had anything they wanted to discuss or bring up.
When's your next meeting?
We're looking to do a hackathon here in Los Angeles, but we may have another speaker engagement meeting of another heart-centered company that will fall into our category. So stay in touch with the social media. Yes.
I have a question for Howard.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the television show that you're working on that's sort of related to inspiration?
Thanks for that.
Come on up.
In part with the inspiration of Jude and our invitation both to Drew and Stuart and others who I know to be involved, we formed the Kindheart Lionheart TV network. If everybody knows the story of Maker Studio, it's a big story here in Los Angeles, at Culver City. They built up independent online TV network and they sold it to Disney. We are creating a TV network to try to be to support inspirational works. We want to have Silicon Beach on that as well as Blip TV.
Another platform,
and it's a nice project. Thanks for the opportunity. And we have a particular show that we're leading forward with, which is called California Love, California-love.co. We've registered with SAG and IMDb, and we're going to start shooting in November. And it's kind of a young lead-in to try to get a youthful audience. And once they get in, we're going to divert them to more serious subjects like avoiding pollution and plastic and things like that. But this one is about love. And it's every episode is going to be 3 stories of people who meet each other and then the obstacles of getting together. And it's kind of fun and sexy with some heart-centered leadership.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for hearing our presentation. And please stay in touch. And go to the social sites to find out when our next event's going to happen.